Emmanuel Macron appears to be following in Charles de Gaulle's footsteps with his hardline Brexit stance, unearthed reports suggest. France will not cave in to Boris Johnson's Brexit demands despite desperately needing a trade deal to prop up its economy, the report said. French President Emmanuel Macron's Europe advisor said the EU cannot be weak in the upcoming tussle over access to Britain's fishing grounds and regulatory alignment. France's European Affairs Minister Clement Beaune insisted Paris would not rubber-stamp a trade agreement unless the UK respects its hardline demands. Mr. Beaune said, "Regarding Brexit, we could accept out of convenience an agreement that is too fast and too weak. It is in our interest and the economic interest of many sectors in France, but we can't be weak. We can't accept access to our market if they don't respect our rules in terms of competition, environment and health. We can't talk about sovereignty and independence if we don't pass the test of sovereignty and independence that Brexit represents." European capitals fear the chances of a no-deal Brexit have dramatically increased because very little progress has been made since June. Mr. Beaune's comments are no surprise, though, as ever since Britain left the EU, the French president has adopted an intransigent attitude towards the UK. For example, in April 2018, Mr. Macron was the only EU leader who refused former Prime Minister Theresa May a much longer Brexit extension. Unearthed reports suggest he might be following in the steps of his predecessor, former French President Charles de Gaulle. In a recent column for The Spectator, journalist Jonathan Miller wrote about Mr. Macron, "The British have much to offer France in inward investment and defence cooperation, not least in the Sahel. Why this petty connery, then, from Macron? Curiously, given that the French export more to the UK than the UK to France, and there has been a vast exchange of population, to mutual benefit, all these deep and constructive relationships seem less important to Macron than protecting the ideological purity of the EU by flagellation of those seeking an exit from this nirvana. Or maybe there is more to it. When you have eliminated the impossible," the journalist argued, "the only explanations that seem to fit the facts are that Mr. Macron is a victim of grandiosity, a condition to which inhabitants of the Élysée are especially susceptible." Or, Mr. Miller wrote, that a different scenario has presented itself, and that he is suddenly terrified. He explained, "Here is my theory du jour. It is that Jupiter is existentially frit that Brexit will be a roaring success." Perhaps he has read Le Brexit va réussir, Brexit is going to succeed, by the brilliant Marc Roche, London correspondent for Le Monde for 25 years, who believes the perfidious Brexiteers will have the last and loudest laugh, mocking Europe, the bright lights beckoning, a stone raft turned to gold, like Singapore or Hong Kong. There is in theory a door-see, that Macron has been convinced the British can be forced into a second referendum. But this has to be unlikely. The Prime Minister of Malta thinks this. Macron is smarter.